Okay, muy bien. We're going to finish up with chapter 4 today from Panorama. And we're going to talk about some additional verbs that are irregular in the yo form. We've already gone through a couple of them, right? We looked at decir, which is digo in the yo form, tener, which is tengo, venir, which is vengo, seguir, sigo, and conseguir, which is consigo. Notice that these are what we call the go verbs, right? These are the ones that end in the yo form with the phrase go at the end. We're going to look at a couple other ones that are different, irregular, and some even in a different way. We're going to look at these 5 different verbs. Hacer, which means to do or to make. Poner, excuse me, which means to put or to place. And I'm going to group with that suponer, which means to suppose or to assume, because it follows the same conjugation as poner, just with the su in the front of it. Salir, which means to go or to leave, excuse me, and traer, which means to bring. So these verbs, I'm going to go through the conjugations so you can hear them pronounced. So if you'll repitan with me. Hacer, yo hago, tú haces, usted, él, ella hace, nosotros hacemos, vosotros hacéis, ustedes, ellos, ellas hacen. Poner, to put or to place. Yo pongo. Tú pones. Usted, él, ella pone. Nosotros ponemos. Vosotros ponéis. Ustedes, ellos, ellas ponen. Salir, to leave. Yo salgo. Tú sales. Usted, él, ella sale. Nosotros salimos. Vosotros salís. Ustedes, ellos, ellas salen. Suponer, to suppose or to assume. Yo supongo. Tú supones. Usted, él, ella supone. Nosotros suponemos. Vosotros suponéis. Ustedes, ellos, ellas suponen. The next one is traer, to bring. Yo traigo. Tú traes. Usted, él, ella trae. Nosotros traemos. Vosotros traéis. Ustedes, ellos, ellas traen. Okay, so let's look at some of these just with meaning, and we'll talk about this go form in the yo. Hacer is often used to ask questions about what something or someone does. Notice that just like in English, when I say, what are you doing? You don't say, I'm doing basketball or I'm playing basketball. You answer, I'm playing baseball or I'm playing basketball. Same thing with Spanish. ¿Qué haces? Is a very, very common way of saying, what are you doing? ¿Qué haces hoy por la tarde? For example, the verb, the sentence in blue down there. But we don't answer back with that. We answer with what we're actually doing. So, ¿qué haces hoy por la tarde? What are you doing today in the afternoon? You would say, yo estudio, yo tomo mi clase, yo veo una película, veo la televisión. So this is the one verb that you're not going to make back in the same verb into the yo form or the other form. You're going to actually use the correct verb. So hacer is just a very general verb for asking what somebody's doing. Now, hacer also means to make or to do something specific. You could say, hago mi tarea, I do my homework. Now, in that case, it does mean that. It also can mean hago una torta, I make a cake. So it means to make or to do, but when it's asked generally, not for a specific purpose, then you're going to answer back with the verb that would correspond with what you're actually doing. Okay, so in the example, ¿qué haces hoy por la tarde? What are you doing today in the afternoon? Salgo con mis amigos. I'm going out with friends. So you're going to answer, they're asking tú, so you're still going to have to answer in the yo form, right? If they're asking ustedes, you're going to answer back in nosotros form. But the verb is going to change according to whatever the action is that you're actually going to be doing. Okay, poner, we said poner means to put, or it can also mean to place, but it's also used for turning on something. Carlos pone la radio, Maria pone la televisión. So, for example, here are some questions to rewrite. I turn on the light. Based on what you know, how would you say that in Spanish using the verb poner? And we'd say yo pongo la luz. You turn on the television. Tú pones la televisión, or usted pone la televisión. Televisor is also another way of saying television. I think that's actually what was in your vocabulary, but televisión for sure is the more common way of saying it. So poner can be used to turn on a household appliance. Okay, suponer, it means to assume or to suppose, and it follows the same conjugation of poner. So in the yo form, it's supongo. Some examples of how to use suponer. El profesor supone, assumes or supposes, que los estudiantes estudian todas las noches. Mis amigos suponen que yo quiero ir al cine con ellos. Yo supongo que tú quieres ver el partido de los Bengals. I assume or I suppose you want to see the Bengals game. And hopefully that's correct. Okay, so that's suponer, which follows the same conjugation as the verb poner. The next one we'll look at is salir. There are three different ways of using salir. Salir means to leave. Salir de means you're leaving from someplace, which makes sense, right? So salgo de la casa para ir a mi clase. Salir para is one of those prepositions that means to or for or towards something. So salgo, Juan sale para la casa de sus padres in Rexburg. So Juan is leaving to go to a place. And then salir con has two different connotations as well. Salir con means you're leaving with something. Salgo con mi pluma. I'm leaving this room with my pen. Salgo con mi mochila. And then salir con with a person also implies that you're going out with that person. So you're dating. There really is no other way in Spanish to say dating. You could use the term somos novios, we are boyfriend, girlfriend. So Marta sale con su novio todos los sábados. Marta goes out with her boyfriend on Saturdays. Okay, so salir de means you're leaving from a place. Salir para means you're leaving to go to a place. And salir con means you're leaving with something or with someone. Next verb is traer. Traer is a go verb, but it also is an irregular e to I in the yo form. So if the verb traer, the root would be tra. So we have to add an extra I in there, trago. It also is another word for to swallow. So traigo is how we pronounce the yo form. So it's irregular in the yo form twice. It's a go verb and it's EI stem changing. Otherwise, it's regular in the other conjugation. So yo traigo, tú traes, usted, él, ella trae, etc. So just that yo form, traigo, almost like the word trailer. So it's going to traigo, that AI, make that diphthong. So that's how it's doubly different in the yo form. Okay, next verb, to see, ver. We've used that before. And ver at first glance doesn't actually look irregular. But it is because if the root is just the letter V, because it's a short three-letter word. So if you take out the ER, technically the yo form would be vo, which it is not. So we add an E in there, veo. Otherwise, it's regular. So it's not a go verb, but it is irregular because we add an E back into the verb with the yo form. So yo veo. Tú ves, usted, él, ella ve, nosotros vemos, vosotros veis, ustedes, ellos, ellas ven. So it is irregular. It doesn't necessarily look like it until you realize that is an extra E in the yo form. And then the next one is the verb oír, which means to hear and can also mean to listen to. It's irregular in a couple of different ways. It's a go verb, but also adds a Y in three of the different conjugations. So the yo form is yo oigo. So we added an I in there because remember the verb, the root OIR, the root would just be O. So it's not ogo, it's oigo with an I. And then in the second person singular, plural, and second person singular, third person singular, and third person plural, we add a Y in there. So tú oyes, usted, él, ella oye, nosotros oímos, vosotros oís, those are regular. And then third person plural, ustedes, ellos, ellas oyen. If in some countries in South America, in Uruguay and Argentina, for example, where they pronounce the sh for the Y and the double L, you say tú oyes, usted, él, ella oye, ustedes, ellos, ellas oyen. And so the Y is pronounced differently, and so it's more obvious than it is oye or oyen, oyes. Doesn't necessarily sound different. It's a Y instead of an I. Okay. So again, different. It's go stem changing, but it's also I-Y stem changing in the second person singular and plural, second person singular, third person singular, and third person plural, and then the I instead of the Y in the yo form. Okay, let's do a little bit of práctica. This one's a little bit different. It's going to be 7 questions, but 3 questions for each one. So if you want to number your papers from 1 through 7, but put 3 different blanks, pause here and go through and translate the verb salir, for example, in the Isabel form, nosotros in the yo form, and then go through each of these 7 verbs. And then unpause, come back, and we'll talk about the answers and some pronunciation. Okay, muy bien. So, número 1, salir. Ya tenemos Isabel sale, nosotros salimos y yo salgo. Número 2, ver, yo veo, ustedes ven y tú ves. Poner, Rita y yo, that's nosotros, ponemos, yo pongo, los niños ponen. Hacer, número 4, yo hago, tú haces, usted hace. Número 5, oír. Él oye, nosotros oímos, yo oigo. Número 6, traer. Ellas traen, yo traigo, tú traes. Número 7, suponer. Yo supongo, mi amigo supone, nosotras suponemos. This is just a good chance for me to remind you about your verbs, all those verbs, nice and long sound, especially like on number 3, poner. In English, you're going to be tempted to say pongo, and it's like the dog and Dalmatian, right? But it's pongo. Each of those O's has that nice O sound. In suponer, supongo, each of those verbs has their true sounds, or each of those vowels, has their true sounds. So just a good chance to practice your pronunciation. Okay, another exercise here is a conversation between Ernesto and David. The verb to conjugate is in parentheses. There are 12 different options here, so go ahead and number your papers 1 through 12. Pause me here, go through and conjugate the verb accordingly as would match in this diálogo, and then we'll come back and look at it together, okay? Okay, Ernesto dice, David, ¿qué haces hoy? David, ahora estudio biología, pero esta noche salgo con Luisa. Vamos al cine. Los críticos dicen que la nueva película de Almodóvar es buena. Ernesto, ¿y Diana? ¿Qué hace ella? What is she doing? David, sale a comer con sus padres. Ernesto, ¿qué hacen Andrés y Javier? David, tienen que hacer las maletas. Remember that because tener que, the next verb stays in the infinitive form. And hacer maletas is a way of saying to pack, to make their suitcases. Tienen que hacer las maletas. Salen para Monterrey mañana. Ernesto, pues, ¿qué hago yo? What am I supposed to do? David, yo supongo que puedes estudiar o ver la televisión. Now, ver stays in the infinitive form because it's still being controlled by puedes, right? You can do 2 things. Puedes estudiar o puedes ver la televisión. Ernesto, no quiero estudiar. Mejor pongo la televisión. Mi programa favorito empieza en unos minutos. Okay, as always, how do you do on the conjugation of the sentences? We're combining a couple different things. You've got to look at the sentence or the question and decide what part of what person is speaking or who's being spoken to, and conjugate accordingly. You got some stem changing verbs here. You've got some go verbs, some irregular verbs. So lots of good things to combine into one different exercise. Okay, last one. Different oraciones. This is from Panorama. You've got a model there. Tú cosas en su lugar antes de en salir, and to conjugate the verb accordingly. The one correct form would be tú pones las cosas en su lugar antes de salir. Because de antes de is a preposition, we keep the verb in the infinitive form after that. That's why salir isn't conjugated. So pause here and come back and look at these different options. Okay, número 1. Mis amigos salen conmigo al centro. Número 2. Tú dices mentiras, pero yo digo la verdad. Número 3. Alberto oye la música del café pasatiempos. Número 4. Yo no veo muchas películas. Número 5. El domingo nosotros hacemos mucha tarea. Número 6. Si yo digo que quiero ir al cine, mis amigos van también. Okay, some of these are getting pretty complicated. And not to say there aren't different options for different verbs here, but these are the ones that came to my mind as I went through this exercise. Okay, guys, we just finished chapter 4. That's awesome. So you now know how to conjugate all kinds of regular, irregular verbs. You know several different types of irregular verbs, and you have this amazing arsenal to understand and to speak in Spanish, conjugating different kinds of verbs in different ways. So good job. As always, don't get overwhelmed. This seemed like a lot because there are 5 different verbs that have 6 different verbs actually have different kinds of conjugations. Make some flashcards, review it. You'll get this writing it down, hearing it, seeing it, speaking it. Those are all the ways to make sure all of your senses are involved in learning these verbs. So let me know what you need help with. As always, I'm available Tuesdays at Zoom and anytime by appointment. So if you're not getting something, please don't suffer alone. Let me know how I can help. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.